Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our council meeting this afternoon. I'm going to call it to order at this time and begin by asking Councillor Forder to read our land acknowledgement.
Certainly, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Through you. We would like to begin by acknowledging that we are meeting on the traditional lands and treaty territory of the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, which includes the Chippewas of Nawash Unceded First Nation and the Chippewas of Saugeen First Nation. We also recognize the Métis, whose ancestors shared this land and these waters. We extend our gratitude to all Anishinaabe and Métis people and their descendants, past, present, and future, who continue to care for and inhabit these lands and tend these waters.
Now I just invite everyone to join me for a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? I see none, but if it occurs to you at any time, please bring it forward. Announcements are next. Just before I open the floor to announcements, in light of current events and also our motions regarding anti-racism in September of 2020 and equity and recognition for all in October 2020, I want to just reiterate that the municipality of Meaford is committed to fostering inclusivity within our communities, local government, and within our institutions and multi-sectoral service agencies. All residents deserve to feel safe and accepted within our community, regardless of their age, ability, sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, socioeconomic status, race, ethnic group, or nationality. While the municipality of Meaford supports people's rights to organize and protest, we stand by the 2SL LGBTQIA+ community members and their right to live to their true selves safely and free of harassment and hate. Fostering an environment of equity and recognition for all is the responsibility of everyone, beginning with community leaders. Everyone should have the opportunity to work, live, learn, play, and thrive in our community, free from discrimination and harassment. Are there any other announcements from council or from staff? Let's start with Mr. Smith, our interim CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple from me today. One, to recognise two exceptionally successful events that took place through the municipality since we last met. On Saturday, the 23rd of September, we held our first annual tree planting at Beautiful Joe, which was attended by a good number of families, and 125 trees were planted as part of National Forestry Week. We're very grateful for the help we had from Forestry Ontario and Grey Sauble Conservation Authority at that event. And then the week previously, we had our first annual community safety fair, and representatives from many social services and safety organisations around the area were present, including the OPP's bike rodeo. And we had over 100 people attend that event, which was also very successful. And then I'm pleased to announce an event coming up on Wednesday, September the 27th. That's this Wednesday at 7:30 at Meaford Hall. The Aurelia Youth Centre has generously presented a concert at Meaford Hall to support our local youth through the Backpacks for Learning programme. Chris Story, our manager of cultural services, when learning about the Backpacks for Learning programme, extended an invitation to Amy Teed Akers, who graciously accepted. That programme is a vital component of Georgian Bay Community School and is now celebrating its 10th year, and it relies exclusively on donations, which means that this concert is a significant boost to its fundraising efforts. The event showcases the talents of US artist Roger Harvey, joined by special guests My Father's Son and Sammy. The performance is scheduled at 7:30 on Wednesday, as I say, and ticket prices are flexible. It's a pay what you can, ranging from 20 to 75. And ticket buyers also have the opportunity to pay it forward by purchasing tickets to share with others, spreading the joy for this initiative. So we're very grateful to the Aurelia Youth Centre and the artists in question for their donation to the Backpacks for Learning programme.
Announcements, Deputy Mayor Keaveney.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good afternoon, everyone. Just on behalf of the Rotary Club of Meaford, I wanted to announce that their trivia night is coming up. It's not until October the 27th, but I want people to start thinking about putting teams together for this really fun evening. There's typically been quite a bit of competition between the library team and a team from the municipality. It's a night to look forward to, and by all means, pull your team together, 8 people, and every table is themed. So decor and costumes are certainly recommended. JD Moffat will be the master of ceremonies, and this will take place at the Meaford Community Center. And any funds raised will go to support Rotary community events and initiatives. And if anybody wants any further information, they're welcome to get in touch with me. Thank you very much.
Who's next? Councillor Greenfield.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I wanted to mention, I'm sure everyone's aware that the Scarecrow Parade and the Apple Harvest Craft Show are upcoming, very big events in our area. We're hoping this weather will continue for the rest of this week and all weekend. But I did want to mention it's a little different activity. I'm afraid I don't know too much about it, but this occurs Saturday, September 30th at noon. The activity is slated to start, and it involves the skateboarders of Meaford. It's called the Meaford Skateboard Contest, and apparently all skateboarders of different levels of expertise are invited to come down to the skateboard park and show off their runs and their tricks, and should be a great event. I'm not sure if the ages are 20 to 75 or not, but anyway, sounds like fun. Thanks.
Any other announcements? Go ahead, Councillor Bell.
Well, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Maybe not so much as an announcement, but a nice, I think a nice kudo. Being in the business that I am, I do a lot of traveling on our rural roads, and I just want to say a big thank you to our crews that are out on the rural roads doing the cutting of the edges with the machinery to, keep the weeds down. It's the second time they've done that this year, and it just shows the ratepayers that we've got some pretty good stewardship happening. So I just wanted to say thank you to the work crews.
Thank you. Councillor Urick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, this is a busy weekend. Not only the Scarecrow is happening as well as the craft show, but the Meaford Creative Arts Association, they're having a art show at the Meaford Hall this Saturday on the 30th at noon. Last year, I remember they did this as well, and it really is a great opportunity to get so many people in town for the craft show as well as the parade that it draws a big crowd. So that's another good opportunity, as well as in concert with the Rotary. I'll just like to give a plug for the Canettes as well, because their roast beef dinner is happening this Saturday at 6 p.m. So again, anybody wanting to support another local service club that does great work in the community, that's available as well.
And just one more from me, and that is that this Saturday at Castle Beach Park in Owen Sound, the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation is holding an event to mark Truth and Reconciliation Day. And the only thing I really know for sure is that they are heartily inviting the entire community out to celebrate with them and to learn more. So I just pass that on, and maybe, do you know more about it, Matt?
Nope, not on that one, but I do have one more to add once you finish.
Okay, anyway, I believe it gets underway at 10 o'clock, and I'll try and do a post on it when I learn more about it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one I neglected to add. I'm pleased to welcome Chris Sadler. He's one of our new staff who's taking on one of the new roles that council approved last year, which is split between the transportation team in the winter and the parks team in the summer. So we'd just like to welcome Chris and wanted to get him in front of council.
Okay. We'll move on to public participation. Members of the public are encouraged to provide council with their comments and questions. Presentations must be prearranged with legislative services before the agenda is released and are limited to 10 minutes in time. If a member of the public wishes to make a deputation on items on the council agenda or to ask a public question of council, they may do so either in person at the council chambers or remotely via Zoom, either phone or internet. Members of the public wishing to make a deputation or ask a public question must register in advance with legislative services by 10 a.m. on the morning of the meeting. And you can do that by contacting Deputy Clerk at meaford.ca or call 519-538-1060 extension 1100. An email with access information will be sent to those who register for remote participation. Deputations are limited to 5 minutes and public questions to 2 minutes. And also the public can watch this meeting live via the Municipality of Meaford's YouTube channel at www.meaford.ca/YouTube. So moving on to presentations, I'd like to welcome Sergeant Rod Lindsay, who is subbing for Deborah Anderson as Grey Bruce OPP with her quarterly report. Thank you, Sergeant Lindsay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry about that. It's all set up for me. Made it go backwards. Good afternoon, and for those that I've never met before, don't know me, I am Rod Lindsay. I'm a platoon sergeant here in the Grey Bruce Detachment. I work out of and report to the Meaford Detachment. Inspector Richardson and Staff Sergeant Anderson send their regrets. One is on vacation and the other one had a conflicting schedule and could not be here today. With the report that Inspector Richardson sent out, I just want to go through and highlight some important things that I think are significant and try to relate them back to how it's impacting the municipality of Meaford. Starting with our crime unit, which is led by Sergeant Byron Swash. Currently, we've got 7 detectives in that unit. And in the first 6 months of this year, they've had to either lead, assist, or supervise 110 benchmark occurrences. 110 in the first 6 months is a lot. And out of those 110, 48 were sudden death investigations, 4 of which were deemed to be opiate overdoses. They had to deal with 18 reported sexual assaults, 3 indecent acts, a child pornography complaint, armed robberies, robberies without weapons, large cryptocurrency frauds, which is becoming more and more common, arson complaints, and missing persons. 2 noteworthy cases that they were heavily involved with the first 6 months of the year were the 2 serious armed robbery occurrences. One was in a Saugeen First Nation business where shots were fired during the robbery. The second being the takeover armed robbery of the Dundalk Credit Union in Feversham. The Saugeen First Nation robbery resulted in 2 Toronto men being identified and arrested. They were able to seize a prohibited firearm. Drugs suspected to be cocaine and fentanyl were also seized during that arrest. As for the Dundalk Credit Union robbery, this has been linked to several other credit union robberies across Southern Ontario that were happening back in the spring. That is unsolved right now. One of our crime unit members has been assigned to the multi-jurisdictional investigative team, and they're working on this case. With respect to the municipality of Meaford, there is 2 cases that I think are worth identifying. The first one was the crime unit was able to identify a young adult male that was committing arsons across the town, like in the town of Meaford itself. 2 crime unit members were assigned to it through interviews, investigation. They were able to identify the young male, and he was charged with 9 counts of arson. That matter is currently before the courts. The second incident that was well known across the municipality was the one in Sydenham where it was on Sunny Valley Road near Grey Road 11, I believe. This was the pedestrian motor vehicle fatality. It was deemed to actually be a criminal act versus a traffic incident. With the help of our Criminal Investigation Bureau, They were able to determine what happened. There was a lengthy investigation and they were able to identify the driver and charge him with dangerous driving causing death. And again, that matter is still before the courts. In addition to all these responsibilities, the crime unit continues to follow up leads, prepare for court. They're heavily involved in assisting Owen Sound with some homicides. We got several members with respect to Meaford. We have the Sprung homicide that took place back in May of 2020. We had the preliminary inquiry to see if it would go to trial for first-degree murder. That happened, and we are proceeding with a trial for first-degree murder. The last I heard, we're looking at next year for that trial. I suspect that probably will garner some media attention. So you can see from the report, our crime unit has been very busy this year. There's been a lot on their plate. With respect to our community street crimes unit, currently we have 5 detectives with 2 vacancies. At the time of this report, it says that there's 30 active drug or property crime investigations that are ongoing. 2 weeks ago, I was talking to a member and he actually said that is now doubled. They've got 60 active drug and property crime investigations across Grey Bruce that they are actively working on. They did have 1 constable that was off on parental leave. He is now returned. So that gives us 3 members in the county that are focusing on those investigations. Of note, it should be highlighted that the street crimes unit is currently having 4 parallel drug trafficking investigations that are linked to opioid overdoses that they're investigating. They were able to get judicial authorization through warrants to seize the cell phones and electronic devices that were located on scene, and they're able to get the access to the evidence, and now they're reviewing that for potential leads and potential arrests. Also, it should be noted that in response to the number of opioid related occurrences, officers are actively undertaking several proactive drug investigations in the area. So the street crimes unit is busy as well. This year, they have made great community impacts all around by taking guns and drugs out of our community, but also returning stolen property back to the victims. We often forget about that. We may get the culprits, the suspects, but sometimes it can be hard to get the property. They've been instrumental in trying to get people's property back to them. Another important topic is our mobile crisis response team. I assume everybody's aware of what that is. So basically, the mobile crisis response team consists of mental health workers. One's a registered nurse. Another one, I think she's got some education background in psychology. Anyway, they actually will sit at the detachment, and when we get mental health calls, they will actually deploy from the detachment and meet us wherever it is we're going to meet the person that is in need. They are trained, qualified people. Program excellent. Can't say enough about it. This helps our community all around. As you know, we are not mental health workers, right? And by having them there, they do a couple things. One, they help the person in need because they have the training, they have the background, they have the resources to put the people in touch, to be able to get these resources that they need. Before we had them, what would happen is we would have to take them to the hospital, and it would tie officers up for hours on end, just simply for them to be able to get in touch with resources that they need. It's not that they need to be formed or apprehended or anything like that. They just need resources. So they've been able to do that for us. This benefits the community because it's putting us back out on the street because we're not spending as many hours at the hospital. It allows us to be out doing what the community expects us to be doing proactive patrol, ride, things like that. So every hour that we save at the hospital because of them, it's an hour we put back into the community. So can't say enough about this program. Reason it's on here, I never said it was, we actually got funding to get a third members. We have 3 now. We only had 2 before, now we got 3. And as the statistics keep coming in, hopefully we can get more and get full 24/7 coverage. That would be awesome. So another good news story. We have a new media relations officer, Constable Krista Linthorne. She took over from Nick Wilson. If that name rings a bell, Nick has moved on to other opportunities within the OPP. Krista is a hardworking, dedicated officer. She was on my platoon, so I know her firsthand. I know her well. She is heavily involved in community engagement. She volunteers not only on duty, but off duty as well. She volunteers for everything, you name it. She is glad to do it. She is going to do very well in this role. She's from the area. She grew up here and she's been with the OPP, I think, 8.5 years. And through this role of hers, she'll be looking after community safety, school resources, and media relations. Through this role, she'll be able to showcase the good things that the Grey Bruce OPP are doing. And I see they put it in here. I don't know if anybody noticed it, but it was there was a media post of a Lamborghini that was caught doing 146 kilometers in a posted 80-kilometer zone. She put that on Twitter, I believe, and we got 4,000 comments, over 4,000 comments on that traffic stop on Facebook. So it just goes to show you how important road safety is to a lot of people in our communities. With respect to our auxiliary unit, they have been very busy as well. This year, so far in the first 6 months, they've increased the number of volunteer hours from last year to this year. The auxiliary officers are also involved in the community of Meaford. One of the examples I see they put in here was that in January, one of the members came in and volunteered their time to go to the school here on St. Vincent Street and assist with presentations at the Meaford School. They're also heavily involved in food drives, the community events, ride-alongs, things like that. One of the things I would like to highlight is that in March, we had 3 members that were presented with service awards. Lance Holmes, if you know him, retired after 20 years of volunteer service. Auxiliary Sergeant Paul Ballard received his 25-year service award, and Auxiliary Constable Kevin Predon has 5 years now. They are a very important part of our detachment. They are a valuable asset to us. They do a lot of things, again, that allow us as police officers to get on the road and do the things that the community expects us to do. It's also a gateway too for us to bring people in that may be thinking about becoming a police officer, but they don't know exactly what policing may be all about. This program allows them to come in, they get to understand policing a little bit more, and we use it to get them to apply and become a police constable. Currently, right now, we've got 1 female auxiliary officer that just went through the competition. She was successful, and she is currently at the Ontario Police College completing her basic training, and she will be joining us in February as a constable. So that's very exciting for us. It's a very good program. Quickly on our crime statistics, referring to the municipality of Meaford, you can see that in Q1 and Q2 from last year to this year, we're up about 300 calls for service. Might ask me why. Without the statistics being broken down, it's hard for me. I got a pretty good idea of what it might be, being a road sergeant. Our mental health calls are up across everywhere. It's across all municipalities, and I suspect that's probably what's driving that number. But again, that goes back to our MCERT program, the Mobile Crisis Response Team, who are coming in and they're alleviating us of that and allowing us to do the things that the community expects us to. Respect to traffic. Last year, we had a traffic management unit that was started up late spring, I believe. This consisted of 2 members, and their sole purpose is that traffic management, out doing traffic enforcement. And the first 6 months of this year, the 2 constables have issued 577 charges. On top of that, they've also issued 523 warnings as well. In Q2 alone, there was 322 provincial offense charges, 256 warnings, and they successfully caught 4 impaired drivings out on the roads. One of the highlights they talked about in here that we see in the municipality of Meaford was they did a collaboration with community partners, the other municipal police services, Ministry of Transportation, and they did a 4-day commercial motor vehicle blitz. And in that 4-day blitz, they stopped 117 commercial motor vehicles. 72 charges were laid, 60 warnings issued. But out of that 117 vehicles, 66 of them had to be taken off the road. So over half had to be taken off the road for different safety violations. This is happening in Meaford. I've been a part of it. One of the officers will come over here. He'll partner up with a member of the Ministry of Transportation and the MTO building out on 26 Highway, just before you get to the grocery store. That's their property there. It's a great location set up as trucks come into the town and leave. We pull them in and we're able to do inspections and check them for violations and things like that. So I know it wasn't in the report, but that is something that I've seen done and been part of here in the municipality. Commercial motor vehicles, I think, have gotten away with a lot over the years, but they're starting to draw a lot of attention with a lot of the issues, safety issues that's going on with them not being well maintained. So we're on top of that. And it also is the reason why on the one page it shows a dramatic increase in speeding violations. I would say that's contributed to with our traffic management unit, with them being involved. That has bumped up that number. You can see it's almost, well, we went from 264 in the first 3 months last year to 405 speeding violations this year. So they've had a huge impact on road safety. Lastly, just talk about the cadet program because it's kind of in line with the auxiliary program. I see Inspector Richardson had in his report at the time that the applications for a cadet closed back in August. My understanding was the Great Bruce Detachment is getting 1 cadet. It's the same thing as the auxiliary. They're great for doing police work in the office that doesn't necessarily need a constable to do. And again, what that does is that puts us officers back out on the road so that we're visible doing the things, as I said earlier, that the community wants us to do. So we're excited about that. Hopefully we'll have somebody in place soon, and yeah, it'll be great.
Thank you, I think a lot of us had an opportunity to meet with Krista Linthorne, your new Community Services and Media Relations Officer at the wellness event.
Yeah, she will be great. She's, like I said, she's very much invested in community engagement, being out there, speaking with people and being involved. So.
Are there any questions for the sergeant around the horseshoe? Councillor Greenfield.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thanks very much. A lot of information there, and it's good to know. I've got a couple of questions, but I'll start. Credit union robberies. You mentioned they seem to be getting hit more than maybe some other facilities. Are they being hit because maybe they don't have the big league security and surveillance that the big banks have, or would that be part of the reason, or is it more that they are more common in rural areas, or is there any common denominator there?
No, I mean, really, until we locate them and interview them and have that conversation. You can only speculate at this point why they're targeting the Dundalk banks. It could be maybe because, like, if you look at the one at Feversham, it is rural, right? Not really visible. That could be a reason. It's really hard to say until they can start getting more facts into why they're being targeted.
Thank you, Worship. And first of all, Sergeant Lindsay, I really want to thank you for being here. We haven't had an in-person report from the OPP for a little while, so we're really grateful to have you here with us today. I just wanted to ask one question in relation to Constable Krista Linthorne. Will she also act as a school liaison officer? It would be really wonderful to have, I think, a presence in our school, and I just wondered if that would be part of her role.
I think part of her role is going to be maybe doing presentations in the school. But as far as like when you say liaison, my mind goes to having somebody dedicated that responds to issues at the school. That'll still be a part of the road officers, that they will respond to any kind of issues that take place at the school. But as far as getting into the schools, doing presentations on like drugs, maybe things like that, that'll be Constable Linthorne's role to do.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to, well, it's not great to hear the work, great work is being done. It means bad things are happening. But thank you for all the good work. Just under I saw the bit about the car cameras and the new radio network. I'm just wondering, this report's accurate that they will be kind of outfitted this coming in 2024. Seems to be obviously a pretty widely used technology nowadays. So just wondering how close we are to being up to date.
Actually, here at the Grey Bruce Detachment, we have the new public safety radio network. The new radios are installed, the cruisers. This is actually the new radio right here. They're a little bit thinner, smaller. The antenna is a little bit longer, but yeah, it's good technology. We have it here. Nothing against the old system. It was just, it was just time. It did its purpose, and it was just time for a change. But here at the Grey Bruce Detachment, we have the new radios. The in-car cameras we do now have in Grey Bruce Detachment. With the in-car cameras, it automatically comes with what we call the ALPR, which is the automated license plate recognition. That is a great tool for us. It's great for identifying drivers that are suspended or out driving around and shouldn't be. It gives us lawful authority to stop those vehicles now, to check on to make sure that it's not the registered owner that's driving the vehicle. So all that technology, we've been lucky here at Grey Bruce Detachment to have it. I would say between the spring and the summer, everything kind of came into play. The only thing that we don't have yet that's coming is the body worn cameras. AP have gotten one and not the other. And for us, it was the radios first and body worn cameras to come later. Just on the touch, before I forget, I just want to say that, you know, having worked Meaford or worked in the municipality, policed here for in my 16th year now, this is a safe community. There's a lot of work to be done, and we are doing. But as a platoon sergeant, being responsible for all of Grey Bruce, you know, we've got 8 municipalities, 2 First Nations communities. I can honestly say that I feel Meaford is the safest out of all of them. So,
Thank you for those remarks. Thank you. Very good. Another question, Councillor Forder.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sergeant Lindsay, thank you for everything. I appreciate that. I wanted to just comment on the mobile crisis response team and just talk about how important that is in all municipalities, but particularly for where we are, just to give people some perspective with regards to how effective these are. I did some research and I was looking at Hamilton's mobile crisis response team. Before this was in place, the calls that the police would respond to in a mental health crisis situation typically would result in 3 out of every 4 individuals were taken into custody. And now, several years into that, it's 1 in 5. So it shows that the crisis response team is able to provide the support for the people that are really needed. So I just want to commend you and the OPP for doing that. It's a wonderful service, and keep up the great work. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, they're fantastic. The people that we've got employed, they're really well trained, and they're able to connect with the people in crisis and de-escalate situations and get them the help that they need. So yeah, can't speak highly enough of that program.
Thank you again, Sergeant. And if you'll just leave the microphone on for the next speaker, thank you.
Thank you.
We have no deputations on agenda items this afternoon, but we do have a public question from William Smith. Mr. Smith, if you'd like to take the podium there.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, for the opportunity to speak today, and other respected members of council. I haven't sat in a chair like that since the mid-95, so I may seem a little nervous. I am. The whole reason we're all sitting down here is the first lesson we learned back then is if you get nervous, just imagine everybody you're looking at is naked. So, and I'm standing behind something here too, so I'm protected also. I had a question with regards to the zoning bylaw that's on the computer, and I tried to resolve that issue with the deputy CEO here that's here today, and I didn't find a satisfactory answer. If you look at the zoning bylaw that I brought up, and I was referenced by one of the staff at the desk down there to seeing as it's all online, go online to answer some of my questions. When I brought it up, it has the zoning bylaw on one side, and on the other side, a side panel. On that side panel is pages, and the pages have numbers. Well, I was referring to that as a table of contents. If you look on the opposite side, the issues that you're looking for have a number beside them. So when I looked on the opposite side, they didn't line up. And I kind of wondered why. And it was explained to me that those particular documents nowadays don't really do that. And that's not how you use a table of contents. Well, I was raised probably, I hate to say this, 69, I'm 69 now. So a few years ago, but a table of contents to me meant that if you look on one side and it says a page number, that item will be found on that page number. Has that really changed in documents here nowadays? Or that's my question. How would council or any of you on council look at a table of contents and not find that? Like I said, I was referred by staff at the front desk to use that to try and answer some of my questions. But it didn't lead me anywhere that a typical table of contents, say in a book or a magazine, would lead you to. So unfortunately, that document's over 200 pages long, and I went through all of it. Is that something that the member of the public should really have to do to try and find answers to their questions in the zoning bylaw? That's my question for members of council here today.
Well, I'll just answer it by saying we'll look at it. It's sort of news to me, and we'll look at it. And if the site, the website is misleading or erroneous, we'll get it fixed.
Okay.
I hope you did find your answer when you read the total document.
There was a few things. I got one answered today anyway, but that's pretty well. There was 3 other questions. I've got most of them answered here today, but that still remained a concern for me because the table of contents that I usually refer to in magazines or whatever seem to lead you directly to what you're looking for. And I find this document doesn't do that.
Okay. Thank you for drawing that to our attention, and we will look at it.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Council inquiries. Are there any council inquiries today? Councillor Yuri.
Yeah, I was actually asked by a ratepayer about, I think, and Mr. Voigt's not here, but Mr. Smith may be able to answer it. Just kind of the status. I thought they had said that they expected to see something to be on the agenda for September 25th meeting for STRs. Just wondering where the status of that is and when we might see something on that.
At the next meeting.
From you? Sorry, I missed it.
It'll be on the next agenda.
Okay, good. Sorry, I
with
beg your
a
pardon.
variety of movements when we couldn't get some editing done at the last minute, but it will be on the October 16th agenda.
Other council inquiries? Seeing none, then let's move on to the consent agenda. And items in this list have been before committee of the whole for discussion. Council may choose to pass these items and or bylaws with one motion, or a member may also request an item or items be pulled for separate consideration. And I'm going to read the three of these just so that our audience at home can follow along. The first is a recommendation that Council of the Municipality of Meaford, number one, ask the County of Grey to purchase the former GBCS track property for a future housing and green space project. Two, request that County Council direct county staff to prepare a summary of options for the development of a housing project on that property. And three, commit $500,000 toward the purchase of the property, in addition to the $370,100 in county PILT or payment in lieu of taxes funds previously allocated to a housing project in Meaford. That's the first. The second is the recommendation that Council of the Municipality of Meaford direct staff to work with the design consultants to develop a conventional design footprint that incorporates some low-impact design features and reduces the heat island impact of the parking lot, that's at 28 Nelson Street West, for Council's consideration. And the third item is that Council of the Municipality of Meaford direct staff to include the road resurfacing projects and road rehabilitation and reconstruction projects outlined in Appendix 1 and 2 in the draft 2024 capital budget based on the methodology identified in the report. Council, what's your pleasure? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Your Worship. I would like to pull A, please.
Okay. All right, so we need a motion to put it on the table. If that's the traditional way, let's take items B and C, and we need a motion to approve them. Moved by Councillor Bell, seconded by Councillor Bartley. All in favor? And those two are approved. Coming back to item A. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. And I just thought at this time I would read the motion that is coming before County Council on Thursday, just so that all members of council and anyone in the listening public is aware of what we are attempting to gain approval for at that level. So the motion reads, whereas the County of Grey recognizes access to attainable and affordable housing is important to the community and supports that work in the county's Housing Action Plan, which includes additional actions centered on land use planning, policy, and community development approaches. And whereas the Blue Water District School Board declared the property located at 87 Aiken Street, PINs 37118-0051 and 37118-0062 in the municipality of Meaford are commonly known as the Georgian Bay Community School Track as surplus on October the 18th, 2022, and available for public sale on June the 6th, 2023. And whereas the Council of the Municipality of Meaford passed the following resolution requesting that Grey County purchase the property for a housing and green space project at their September 18th, 2023 meeting, that Council of the Municipality of Meaford asked the County of Grey to purchase the former GBCS tract property for a future housing and green space project. 1, request that county council direct county staff to prepare a summary of options for the development of a housing project on that property, and 2, commit $500,000 towards the purchase of the property in addition to the $370,100 county PLT fund previously allocated to a housing project in Meaford. And 3, now therefore be it resolved that the council of the County of Gray hereby directs staff to enter into negotiations for the purchase of 87 Aiken Street in Meaford, and that the authority to negotiate the purchase of this property be delegated to the Chief Administrative Officer. And 1, that staff prepare a report investigating options for a housing and green space project on the subject lands. And 2, that funds be allocated from the remaining 2021 payment in lieu of taxes settlement as earmarked for affordable or attainable housing projects within the municipality of Meaford to support this initiative as part of the 2024 budget process. So I'm sure County Council will have a fulsome discussion about this on Thursday, and I will certainly report back. Thank you.
Is there any discussion of this item before we vote? Councillor Greenfield.
Thank you, Your Worship. Not so much discussion, but I do want to thank our deputy mayor. I think that that's a very complete notice of motion. And again, thanks to you and Mayor Kentner for over at the county table for bringing this forward. I know this is exploring in rather foreign territory. Affordable housing is, I don't think you'll find it in the list of necessary services in the Municipal Act, but I feel very proud that the municipality of Meaford is taking a step forward, is coming to the plate in a time of desperate need for more income-based housing that people can actually afford. And I commend our county councilors for bringing this forward. And I'm hoping I can get a chance to go over to the county on Thursday morning and cheer you on and listen to the comments that your fellow county councilors provide. Thank you.
One more item here for consideration. Bylaw number 2023-58, municipal access agreement with ATEL Networks Inc. And the recommendation is, be it resolved that this bylaw to enter into a municipal access agreement with ATEL Networks Inc. be taken and read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. I have a motion to put that on the floor. Moved by Councillor Forder, seconded by Councillor Uhrig. Any discussion on this? Councillor Forder.
Information in here. So I just have a question with regards, might be a couple questions as we go here, but to understand the potential changes in the executing party in section 16.2, who are considered as affiliates of ATEL and what is the potential impact of allowing assignment to them without the municipality's consent?
Ask me legal questions that I may not have detailed answers to. What I will say is that this agreement is based upon a CRTC template that our lawyer has then spent a considerable amount of time editing to reflect the Meaford situation. So the clauses in here are fairly standard. My interpretation of this will be if a company like ATEL were to have a subsidiary, ATEL2 Rural or something like that, as Bell and Rogers and many other organizations do, then basically those organizations would still have the ability to use this agreement to install fiber optic cable into our road allowances. So it's just kind of I think when companies have sub-companies underneath them, in effect, is what they'd be classed as an affiliate, as far as this is concerned.
Stephanie?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, and I agree, a very comprehensive report. My question is in relation to right-of-ways, as occasionally council gives the approval to sell a right-of-way, and should we do that, and should it have any ATEL servicing underneath it? How would we approach that?
Well, so generally, if there's any sort of infrastructure underneath a road allowance, we probably wouldn't sell it as a general rule. ATEL, again, no different from Rogers or Bell or, Connect the Dots or a number of the other companies that we've seen these for over the last 5 years. If it were to get to the stage where infrastructure being installed in our right of way that then we were going to sell, then I imagine that ATEL would require an easement to be registered on the title as part of the transfer to whoever was going to purchase it. But generally, this is about travelled road allowances, and so it's pretty unusual for us to sell one of those anyway.
Greenfield?
Through you to Mr. Smith. After the work is completed, will the roadside appear any different than it did before? And the reason I'm asking this is that a lot of our properties, the residents take on their own initiative to groom the ditches, the roadside area, keep it looking spiffy. And I'm just concerned if any of their hard work and efforts after this work is done is somewhat depreciated. Where do we go from there?
So part of the agreement is that any company with a municipal access agreement must repair the land that they have used in order to install their cabling. The same would apply for Union Gas and people like that as well. They're in the similar kinds of arrangements. The requirement to repair is based on our standard road allowance standards, so generally sort of a grassed area. But my experience dealing with this and seeing it in other places is that it'd be very rare that a company would want to dig up a flower bed, although whether a flower bed should be on the municipal road allowance is highly debatable anyway. Again, we really don't have a choice about passing this. This is a CRTC mandated thing that we put ourselves in a position where we enter into the agreement to set rules fairly clearly. But if we don't do it, then an ATEL or any other company like them are allowed to do this. Just this sets the rules pretty clearly without us having to revert to provincial law.
Seeing no other questions, are you ready to vote? All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Need a motion now to move into committee of the whole, moved by Deputy Mayor Keaveney and seconded by Councillor Greenfield. And be it resolved, we move into committee of the whole at 1:53 p.m. The first item here is item 15, dedicated tax increase for affordable housing. Recommendation that committee of the whole receive report CAO 2023-15, dedicated tax increase for affordable housing for information purposes.
Thank you, Mayor Kentner. I think we've already talked about this earlier in I guess at budget time or earlier in the year. And I cannot support this. This jurisdiction of affordable housing is under the county. They receive money from the province and they look after this. We have a hard enough time getting money from the province to do our infrastructure deficit, let alone trying to get money for this. Having said that, is the municipality going to go into the real estate business? that means more employees. You raise the taxes for this, it's just going to employees to run a housing project. We are the second highest taxes in the county. I've been really trying to change that. We are being caught up by the other municipalities. I'm going to try to stick to that. So I don't see much staff here today, but so I'll ask the Matt, do you think we're going to have a 0% tax increase brought forward to us in December? Because as it stands right now, without any more money being looked for gravel or for any employees or for anything, we're looking at a 3% right now with our 1.5, another 0.5% to the Owen Sound for their leaf yard waste. So we're already at 3% without anything coming forward. And having said that, I don't believe we should be in the business that the county looks after this. We should support the county, and we are. We've already put in 500,000 towards it, which scares me bad, because we're taking that money from the education tax from the DND, which I know, well, I don't know, but I have a strong feeling we're going to have to pay the piper eventually. So I just don't see the municipality getting into this business. So for that reason, I cannot support this, even though it is for information purposes only.
Councillor Bell.
That occurs to any sitting council anywhere is that members of council all of us around this horseshoe, we all have a real desire to do the very best that we can. And this subject of affordable housing has been discussed at all levels of government, feds and down the entire country of Canada. And so here we are with for information purposes about assigning a full percentile to try and do something. The harsh reality is that, we really can't do all things to all people in all places for all reasons. And even though our desires are to do something such as this, the financial burden that I know all of my fellow councillors are fully aware of. We received a report maybe 2 or 3 councils ago about the shortfall that we have just on taking care of our bridges. Now, we were wise when we put 1% towards just doing bridges. We have been making some very strong achievements. We'd have had a lot of bridges closed if we hadn't have done what we currently do. I still get some folks who come to me, and I don't know whether any other of you folks get this kind of comment, that the municipality keeps raising my taxes. And they say, and I don't know what I get for them. So I spend some time and I tell them about all of the things inside the grand corporation of the municipality. But we also need to bear in mind that the interest rates of this country are rising, that people are feeling the pinch in more ways than one. And every time that we add another percentile, ultimately onto taxes, the people that we represent, they feel it. And there is a lot of people who really take a close scrutiny as to when we tell them what their tax rate increase is going to be. They're hit hard. And I'm just going to tell you a little personal thing about my dearly departed mother. My mother represented a portion of the demographics that we've got in the municipality. My mother told me that she watched her hydro bill very, very carefully. She monitored that expense. She told me that she watched what she bought at the grocery store, being very, very frugal. And there were many other things that my mom did because she was on that fixed income. of limited resources. And one day at home, my mother said to me, "How dare you raise my taxes?" There's my dear mom. And I had to explain to my mother about all the dynamics of running a corporation of the municipality. Well, my mother listened to that, like I'm sure a lot of other seniors would. But the bottom line is that when we raise the taxes, people do feel it. And so just by taking this with this, it's a great thing. I mean, it's a start. And like fellow councillor Bartley said just moments ago, we've made a $500,000 commitment. We're showing that we care. We're showing that by putting some money where the idea exists, we're already committed to doing that, and it's real. And our deputy mayor and our mayor are going to carry that story to Grey County, and I know you'll do a fabulous job saying so. But on this one here, with bank rates increasing, there's a lot of instability. We don't know where we're going to head when we look at that 2024 budget. And we have seen budgets before with opening phrases of 7% and 8%. So I'm just saying that at this point, this is a spot where we can say, not at this time. We're already doing something magnificent. And today, let's just not have this one show up for consideration on our 2024 budget. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Keaveney.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, and I very much appreciate the comments from Councillors Bell and Bartley. And I think there's many different ways to look at this. And while I'm giving out thank yous, I want to thank Councillor Greenfield as well for this motion that was brought to us some months ago. I think when we look at affordable housing, part of the struggle is defining the term, because we know the county is responsible for what I'll call social housing, subsidized housing, and that type of ability to put roofs over people's heads. When we talk here in this particular motion about affordable housing, I see that more as worker-based housing. Councillor Greenfield addressed it as income-based. I see it as potentially rental units that people who are working at, minimum wage or slightly higher can actually afford to live in. From my perspective, I think that's what we're talking about here. And I do recognize the impact that there would be on the taxes. And I also realize that we need more of us here in Meaford to share the tax burden. As long as we don't have growth and there are just the same number of us here, then our taxes are going to continue to rise. So I think we need more of us to share the load, and bringing in some, we'll call it affordable housing, is one way of reaching that goal. So I again recognize that we're not making a decision here today, that this is something we will come back and discuss at budget time, and we do not know what we're looking at for budget, and we may or may not decide at that time that this is appropriate. But I think even discussing it really is absolutely great for this council here around the table in Meaford to be acknowledging the need for housing and to at least be considering how we can go about encouraging it. Because from my perspective, it is time to take action. We've been talking about the need for affordable housing for a long time now at all levels of government. And all of us need to take this seriously and recognize the challenge and do what we can to address it. And I look forward very much to our budget deliberations when we can again consider going forward with this 1%. Thank you.
Who's next? Councillor Greenfield.
Municipality is having been a leader throughout the county over the past number of years. Councillor Bartley mentioned the 1, 1, and 0.5, and we were the first to introduce that when it came to roads and bridges and facilities. And I understand a number of our fellow municipalities in this county have adopted a similar programs. Community well-being, we did that on our own. We didn't rely on the county. We jumped in. We said, hey, we're going to do our thing on that. And that's worked out, I think, fairly well. Community improvement plan. Game early. It's worked out well, not only in the urban areas, but now also in the rural areas. Our heritage areas designation, we're firmly committed to that. Leaders in the county, a library partnership with another municipality, unheard of, not only in the county, but in the entire province. But we've got that. We've had that for 23 years. It's working. We've got local low-cost transit, one of the first in the county to jump into that. To me, yeah, it would somewhat weaken our case to go to the county on Thursday with this recommendation defeated. I'm in favor of supporting it, as Councillor Bartley says. This is for information. I don't think this is the absolutely last decision on this discussion. But I'll be quite honest with you, with everyone, that without seeing even a draft presentation of our 2024 budget, I'm uneasy about passing this. But I do think we need to push forward with this if indeed we are serious. If we are serious about bringing the county in, we've got to be upfront about this, and that's where I'm at on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, it's difficult to say the least. I agree with that. We have to address homelessness. We have to, I'm extremely sympathetic to the scenario. It is epidemic. My concern is the numbers game. Meaford has 11,500 residents approximately. We know 1% brings in about $180,000 at this time. That will be prorated over the next few years. Judging on Ms. Buckton's presentation and Mr. Boyd's comments, 10 years would be it'd be $1.8 million. Wouldn't even make a dent in what the amount of affordable housing we would need to compensate for what is happening in society. So it's hard to commit to something like that without doing or assessing what the impact's going to be, as Mr. Bell said, in that 10 years with the ratepayers. I agree, and I think we have shown good faith to the county by supporting with the Pilton 500,000. But I can't see how $180,000 based on what it's going to take to build affordable housing is even going to make a dent in it. If we were in Toronto and we had 4 million residents, if we were in Kitchener, we were in Guelph, we might be able to actually make a bite. But if you look up what the role of municipalities is in housing, it's assigning value and regulating use through zoning and approval processes. As Mr. Bartley said, we're not really in the real estate business. And I don't see how we can afford to play that game. We don't have the pockets. So I would have difficulty supporting it as is. I do agree we need to help the county in every way we can, but I'm not sure we have enough money to do it financially.
Mr. Smith?
Thank you, Mayor Kentner. I just wanted to follow up on a couple of things. I agree with Councillor Yuri's comments about the value. To me, the only way this would make sense is if it became a compounding increase in very much the same way that the roads and the bridges and the facilities are, so that it would actually increase the amount every year. Because yes, 160,000 every year, it may as well not be there because it would just sit in a reserve for many, many years. On a very, very practical sense, I do ask that you do pass this today because it is only for information purposes. If you say no to it, it's as if it never existed. And, just for my sanity, I like to have felt like I've spent my time wisely. Nothing will happen as a result of this. There is, even if you receive this information, it's literally that. We won't include anything in the budget unless you give us clear direction to either now or at budget time. So this really is just, Councillor Greenfield's motion asks for some information. Here is some information. That's all it is.
Through you, great discussion, great comments, and I agree with everybody's points. And I am very torn on this. Of course, we all recognize the need for supporting affordable housing, and the cost of living is way up everywhere. And residents everywhere, they're struggling to support their families, let alone paying into additional tax levies that'll even further constrain their funds. I do support the idea of this initiative, but I'm looking forward to discussions during the budget season. So I will vote in favor of this for information purposes only, so we can further these discussions during the budget. However, I'm just curious, does anybody know, are there any other municipalities in Canada or Ontario that have implemented an affordable housing tax, and what have been the results from those initiatives? I haven't been able to find anything online. So are we the first to do this? I just don't know.
As ever, a complicated answer that I don't know the great detail of. Other municipalities have committed to doing similar types of things. In fact, I believe Grey County has said that they're going to put a 1% of their taxes towards affordable housing in the future. It's more difficult to see it in a lot of places, particularly if it is an upper tier or a unitary authority, because housing is part of their mandates, and so there's a housing budget anyway. I haven't seen anywhere where there is a 1% sort of recurring increase in the way this one particularly is. But I also haven't seen that very many times on roads and bridges and so on. I think a lot of municipalities are they're maybe budgeting more annually for things, but not necessarily referring to it in this way. So I think there are some places that are doing similar things, but maybe not sort of calling it the same. Other municipalities across the province are looking at housing in lots of different ways. Some are getting involved in the building of it. The Blue Mountains created an affordable housing corporation to try and do something on the former Foodland site there. That hasn't been tremendously successful so far, but I know they're looking at their options. That's just one example that I know there are quite a lot around there. So municipalities are putting money into this, but not maybe just in this kind of way normally when there's a specific project attached to it.
Councillor Bartley.
Thank you, Mayor Cantor. Just closing comment. We're every one of us are throwing affordable housing out there. I want to be the bearer of bad news. There's no such thing anymore. The gravel companies have doubled the price of gravel in the last 3 years, doubled. Construction costs have gone up 30 to 40%. There is no, minimum wages haven't gone up 30 to 50%. There is no such thing as affordable housing for the working class people. There's going to be subsidized housing, and that's what we need to talk about, is subsidized housing through the county, through the province, whatever you do, but there is no such thing as affordable housing.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. Just following up to Councillor Forder's comments. If you have a chance, Councillor Forder, investigate what they're doing in the town of Collingwood. They have had a task force that has done tremendous work, and the town has now hired a member of staff dedicated solely to research and potentially bringing in affordable housing to the town. So I think we have a neighbor who is taking this very seriously and is taking significant action. And I think, as Liz Buckton mentioned when she was here last Monday, there is a real groundswell of research happening within our community. A number of volunteers have stepped forward and are working within various groups to really understand this problem and to look at what the community can do itself to somehow finance affordable housing. So I think eventually, and this is something new, we are on the leading edge here. There may be partnerships to consider down the road, but I think at this point, let's just keep this alive as interim CAO Smith has suggested, and see where we end up at budget time, and have another fulsome talk on this at that time.
And if I may just add, I haven't heard a word around the horseshoe that I can't agree with, but I do believe we're coming to a time when both the first tier and the province are going to be pouring money into municipalities to try and do something, and they will surely put it where the municipalities have made the most noise and put up probably the most money as well. So I'm prepared to vote for this on the basis of it being a strictly for information, because until we sit down to look at the budget, absolutely nothing is cast in concrete. So if you're ready for the vote, all in favor. Second item on the whole is a recommendation that Council of the Municipality of Meaford, 1, supports the existing library service level whereby all residents of the municipality can become members of the Owen Sound and North Grey Union Public Library. And 2, requests that the Meaford Public Library Board maintain that existing service level following the expiry of the current contract with the Owen Sound and North Grey Union Public Library Board. We need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Greenfield, seconded by Councillor Forder, both members of the library board. Discussion. Finally, Development Services, we have a recommendation that Committee of the Whole recommend Council of the Municipality of Meaford approve a grant in the amount of $7,500 at 46 and 48 Syke Street North in accordance with the Downtown Community Improvement Plan. I need a mover and seconder. Moved by Deputy Mayor Keaveney, seconded by Councillor Greenfield. Any discussion on this one? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm certainly in support of what's being requested here, but I do have a question for Mr. Smith. What concerns me is that this is the first uptick in 2023 from the CIP, and I'm just wondering if we have any idea why that is, or do we feel the funds that we're offering are really not enough to make a meaningful project possible? Is there a lack of awareness about this opportunity? Are businesses just not able to invest during these challenging times? What do we think is going on here?
All of the above. I think that the CIP has funded some good projects over the years, and we have seen some changes to local businesses and to facades and signs and so on. Going back to sort of 2015 now. The amounts that are available haven't changed in that period of time, and so it's my opinion that the maximum available as a grant in particular, but also the maximum loan amount, isn't enough to really do very much these days. If you just wanted to replace your front door, $7,500 probably wouldn't do it. So we are looking at whether there are creative ways to rejig the CIP to make it more valuable to folks. And I think, Rob and Graham will be having some conversations with people in the community and various sort of business focused groups about what that might look like going forward. I think we can always do more to tell people that this exists. And with our new economic development coordinator, I think he's already out there talking to people a lot more. And so people will find out more about it. But yes, I also do suspect that you're right, that many businesses are struggling right now with the cost of living increases that have been referenced with regard to housing. And so these sorts of investments are probably not the first sort of investments that are maintained during harder times. They're probably the last thing that people do. So yeah, I think it's probably a bit of all sorts. What we've always done, of course, is taken any money at the end of the year and put it into a CIP reserve. I don't have the number in front of me right now for what that means is in there, but I think that it does mean that if we can find some creative alternatives, then we may have some decent seed money to get us started.
Councillor Greenfield, did you wish to speak on this? I thought I saw your hand
Right
up.
on this, your worship. I'm glad this is coming forward, and I have to admit that I've always questioned about the cultured stone that was applied to the front of this building, and returning it to the original brickwork. I hope will be a visual improvement.
Speaking for the Heritage Advisory Committee, this is a wonderful application, which is being done by people who really seem to understand what the goals of our downtown heritage conservation area are, and that is to preserve the fine architecture and the architectural features that were established by some very, very bright people 100 years ago. If there's no further discussion, all in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Updates from, first of all, County Council, Deputy Mayor Keaveney, if you'd like to go ahead.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. County Council did meet on the 14th of September. Council began with the customary adoption of minutes along with good news and celebrations, which is like our announcements. We learned that 2023 was also the 166th Fall Fair for Dundalk, just as it was for Meaford. Committee of the Whole appeared to be a short agenda, but the discussions were lengthy and interesting. Jane Mizanski from Gallagher Benefit Services Group delivered a very in-depth presentation regarding Grey County's non-union compensation and pay equity review. Gallagher was retained to assist with a compensation review to ensure the organization provides appropriate levels of total compensation for its employees, meeting pay equity compliance requirements, and ensuring salary administration and benefits are aligned to sector best practices. The last comprehensive review took place in 2013. Recruiting has been challenging for many reasons at the county. They believe baby boomer retirements, a shrinking pool of candidates, fewer graduates looking to the public sector for careers, and tough competition in the marketplace are the reasons. 10 comparators were analyzed, and it was determined that Grey County's pay is generally at or below the median. The target policy has been to pay within the 45th and 55th percentile of the market. It was recommended that council direct staff to phase in the updated 2023 pay structure target policy at the 50th percentile, with the cost to be considered during the 2024 budget cycle. Staff will bring forward a report with recommendations to develop a non-union compensation program, including job evaluation, target pay policy, annual salary adjustment, and how the cost of living adjustments increases will be set annually. During the consent agenda, council approved the revised plan of subdivision application for Meaford Haven. The plan includes 19 blocks for future residential, commercial, stormwater management, and parkland environmental protection and streets. The new street entrance into Meaford Haven, as we know, will align with the street entrance for Loon Call. Approval was also granted for extending the lapse date for the draft plan of condominium for the next phase of cottages at Lower Bay. And this will be extended by 2 years. This request was also supported by TBM Council. Council agreed to change the time of the inaugural session on December 5th, when the warden will be elected, from 5 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Contract was awarded to Ceridian Canada Limited to provide the human capital management solution for the county for a term of 5 years at a total fixed fee of $1.2 million. This software will provide efficiencies and will modernize HR processes, eliminating cumbersome paper-based systems, providing employees self-service functionality, and will give managers a real-time access to performance history, scheduling, and attendance data, as well as key management metrics and reports. Options were considered for emergency housing. Currently, the county needs to be able to offer 14,000 nights of shelter to cover the winter need. Meanwhile, we only have available 9,855 nights. Motels are utilized primarily in Owen Sound, which are expensive, and county staff don't have complete control over who is housed and for how long. All options are being discussed, including the purchase of a county asset with the ability to include office space for services and staff. But again, just emphasizing that staff at the county as well as county council are really worried about this winter with the high level of homelessness that we have, particularly in the Owen Sound area, that people who are currently sleeping rough outside just are not going to have anywhere to go. So this is a conversation that certainly will be continuing at the county level. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. The Heritage Advisory Committee, Councillor Greenfield.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship. A good meeting, a number of activities taking place on Sykes Street in Meaford. I'll start on the just on the main block area. Heritage permits were assigned at 42 Sykes Street North. This is back over a period of time throughout 2023. So we had 42 Sykes Street North with a permit, 36 Sykes Street South. Try to say that quickly. 29 Sykes Street North, and as we just heard, about 48 Sykes Street North, the work being done there. So a lot of activity on the main street. And then we have two residences, 141 Sykes Street North. That's the house with the turret, basically right across from the Circle K gas bar. The Heritage Committee approved actually part 3 of that restoration project. There has been a great deal of work going on there. The Heritage Committee has been very involved, and things are coming together there. There have been some changes in the original plans, but I think by the end of the day, everything is going to look just magnificent there. And the other residence on Sykes was 191. That was right at the corner of Sykes and Bayfield Street. There's a building there that is undergoing some considerable repairs, siding, a lot of window and door work, and the permit was approved on that building too. So hopefully in the near future, construction can get going there. Again, I think I saw a lift at 141 Sykes Street North this morning. So hopefully something is taking place there to continue the renos. The Grand Trunk Railway shed built in, as far as I can estimate, 1900. It might have been 1901, down at the harbor. The Heritage Committee asked for a plan to be brought forward to preserve that building. The presentation would include funding sources and hopefully some community partners with that building. the committee would like to see that building remain. It is an integral part of what once was an integral part of the urban area of Meaford. And it's unfortunately the last building that's there. We lost the railway station in the early 1960s. Beautiful building. Anyway, that's past history, but I think that those are the main points that were discussed, Your Worship.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Counselor. And Counselor Forder, the Library Board.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And through you, we did, Councillor Greenfield and I met last Wednesday with the rest of the library board. Among all the things that we did, we reviewed the 2024 draft book replacement capital budget and also the 2024 draft operating budget. And with the help of the Meaford Public Library's Governance and Policy Standing Committee, 5 partnership and sponsorship policies and forms were approved unanimously. We've been working on that for the last several months over the summer. The board began discussions related to the Owen Sound North Grey Union Public Library Service Agreement, kind of what we just discussed earlier. And these discussions are ongoing as no decision on the matter has to be made at this time. The Meaford Public Library Board went into closed session with the municipal HR manager, the acting CAO, and the records management coordinator to discuss personal matters about identifiable individuals specifically related to the library CEO position. I've got a couple highlights from the Meaford Public Library for August. The number of e-library downloads was up to over 3,300, which was up from 2,700 last year. There were almost 1,900 public computer logins, which are up from 900 in last year. And the facility bookings, this is probably one of the most interesting stats, wildly popular, 121 bookings for this for August this year versus only 6 for August last year. And so far this year, the Meaford Public Library has facilitated over 81,000 checkouts. It gives you an idea of how popular that place is. And with Halloween fast approaching, October promises a dynamic lineup of spooktacular events and programs. So for more information, you can swing by the library in person or visit the website or their social media channels. And we will be meeting next on October 18th. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Were there any other boards or committees to report on? Okay, we need a motion to move out of committee of the whole. By Counselor Bell. And we did that at 2:31 p.m. Oh, yeah. Motion, read the installation of municipal webcams. Would you like to explain your motion?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, hopefully this one falls a little more under the auspice of affordability. So, but I think it just does help tourism, weather-related, informational. So whereas there were previously several public webcams operated in downtown Meaford by private businesses, allowing residents and visitors to see weather, traffic, and commercial activity in the area. And whereas, as these cameras are no longer in operation, council wishes to install a new camera or cameras to provide a live video stream or streams of downtown Meaford. And whereas staff are currently reviewing existing video surveillance equipment and policies. Therefore, be it resolved, the council of the municipality of Meaford hereby directs staff to include the purchase and installation and video hosting of 1 or more live stream webcams for downtown Meaford in the upcoming review of existing video surveillance equipment.
Any discussion? Counselor Greenfield?
Thank you, Your Worship. A question, I don't know if Mr. Uri can help me or Mr. Smith, but formerly this camera presented weather, traffic, and commercial activity in the downtown. Is that the intent, the only intent in the future, or could there be more information provided, or is that to be decided along the way?
The intent, first and foremost, right now is basic. due to privacy laws, that's going to be, and I think staff will look into this as well as what can actually be accomplished through that. It's interesting that we had the OPP report here today, because in many countries in the world now, it's become widely accepted that video recording is pretty accepted for law enforcement purposes. However, privacy laws dictate what we can do. So in the interim, this would at least provide an opportunity for whether when people can see traffic issues and tourism. So when you have events happening such as Summerfest or stuff like that, people can see what's going on. Moreover, it's also an opportunity for, again, just people to, if you look worldwide at webcams, most municipalities in some way, shape, or form are on there now. It was sort of like a conversation we had in the past about the charging stations. Right now, Meaford's a little bit invisible to the world, and people worldwide can check in and see kind of what's happening in our community. And I don't think that's a bad thing from a tourism and notification perspective.
Thank you, Mayor Kentner. This is kind of a twofold thing. There's cameras for tourism, see what's going on in Moon Sound, which could be made public. I think I'm not a lawyer, and there's no lawyer in the room, from what I'm told. But I'm concerned about the other aspect of having some sort of camera system that, like the recent activity in Owen Sound, they're looking for security footage of certain perpetrators. And that would have to be a sealed camera system that is not open to the public, I would have to think. I know this whole camera thing gets our CAO on the edge. Could you tell us, is there a way around it?
So cameras are possible. Yes, I mean, anything that's like what I call CCTV, closed circuit television, is for use of the organization alone. So, I mean, yeah, these are two really different things. What Councillor Urick is talking about is very much a live stream webcam, so people can see what's happening in the world. It almost certainly wouldn't be recorded at all. You wouldn't be able to rewind and check to see who was there and all that sort of stuff, because that is the privacy side of it. For anything to do with our municipal webcam or municipal cameras for surveillance, we have to make a determination about the necessity of them. The Information and Privacy Commissioner gives some pretty specific guidance on what you are allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do. And it's not just about it's not just about the risk of something happening. You've got to be able to demonstrate that it continues to be a risk. So, you know, what you're supposed to do is, once you put something up, say if we put up a camera outside of this room that was constantly running, I'd have to show every 6 to 12 months that we still needed to, because there was still a risk in place. And so that's what makes it a real challenge for things like the incident in Owen Sound, because, you know, while obviously that was a horrendous thing, you can't prove in advance that you need something to cover a horrendous thing that's about to happen. In certain high crime areas, you can do that. And obviously the police are more involved with that. I believe the OPP actually just got some money recently to fund some police-based surveillance equipment for places that they were having major crime problems. But for us, it's much more about damage to municipal facilities, or if we think that our staff are at risk from the public for some reason or other. So, you know, we're just looking at things for the McCarroll Park washrooms, because unfortunately we have some ongoing vandalism there. But that will be something that we would put in place for a short period of time to try and deal with that vandalism problem, and then likely have to take them away again. It is really interesting how this is so different here to in other parts of the world. As Councillor Urick says, in lots and lots of places, it's everywhere. I think there's some statistics that say if you're in London, in England, you're on 6 different cameras at once, or you're never further away than 6 feet from a camera, or those kind of things. That's just not how the Ontario law is written, and certainly municipalities are held to a much higher standard than if you were doing it outside your own store on your private property.
So, Mr. Urick, are you looking just for tourism, or are you looking for the aspect security side also?
Initially, looking for the tourism angle. long-term with public or privacy laws act and what we can do, yeah, I would love to see more of a closed caption recording aspect. Because so again, I worked for a internet company previously, and we were asked on more than one occasion by the local OPP if we had camera footage of certain things that happened within our corridor. Unfortunately, we didn't either because we were also only CCTV. So everything comes down to what you're legally allowed to do. So it does, as Matt said, it is unfortunately, well, it's not unfortunately, but it is realistically, you have to err on the side of caution of what's legal in terms of privacy. Own Sound is a perfect example of there were private cameras that have captured some images of that. We are coming to a point in society with when we were at the Roma conference and they talked about homelessness and how much more crime is being committed, not necessarily for the intent of crime as much as for people crying out for help and seeking places to stay. All of these things are growing as we're talking about homelessness. All these things are factions are growing in society. And I think eventually, I think cameras will become kind of more commonplace and more required. Protection of citizens, protection of homeless, various things that could happen. I'm just not sure where they're legally yet.
I think so. Our IT manager and I are currently working on an updated video surveillance policy because the municipalities dates from 2011 and the rules have changed substantially since then. So I am hoping I'll get that to you by the end of the year. I'm hoping. And so that'll probably give a bit more of a broad sense because I'll include some of the guidance that the IPC's provided so that you guys can actually see what that says. There are some very the example that I keep using, and we have the police ask us about our cameras on a fairly regular basis as well. And when the Information and Privacy Commissioner talk about it, they say that, you know, if we've got a camera in, say, the office parking lot because we're concerned about garbage dumping or vandalism to vehicles and so on, that camera can only go as far as the edge of our property. If it goes onto the sidewalk and somebody is walking past on that sidewalk, then we're invading their privacy. And so if the OPP, for instance, are looking for a vehicle, if we can see it on our camera, we've probably got a camera somewhere we shouldn't have one. So it's a really complicated thing that we need to work our way through. And we're also associated with this updating, and council approved some money for that in the budget this year, updating a lot of our cameras because a lot of them are old and we have 17 different recording mechanisms, whereas now much of this can be done in the cloud through one centralized system, which makes it much easier to turn them on and off or move them around and things like that. So stuff is coming. The bit about sort of security and monitoring, you know, I think there is a value to that. My personal opinion, and sort of with my well-being hat on, is that video surveillance should always be the last resort because we should invest money in trying to solve the determinants of crime and to try and help us avoid those situations first, rather than trying to find ways of monitoring people to sort of catch them in the act, kind of thing.
One more go.
One more. Thanks, Mayor Kentner. So I wasn't going to bring this up. I should have maybe brought it up when the sergeant of the OPP was here. So Meaford has about 7% of the population of gray Bruce, and the numbers we were given today are gray Bruce. We have a much higher percentage of incidents than 7%. Sometimes 14, sometimes 20, sometimes 50%. So there is issues. Yes, we are a safe area. Are these figures produced showing that the OPP are spending more time in the municipality than other municipalities, and that's where the incidents are occurring? But I just think the more help we can give them, the better. And I just, if it's possible in any way, shape, or form, I'd like to advance what Councillor Yerg is bringing up. Thank you.
Mr. Smith.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just to clarify on the policing stats, the percentage of the stats there are not relevant to the percentage of the population in Grey and Bruce. Those stats are for the Grey Bruce detachment, which doesn't cover all 17 municipalities in Grey and Bruce. So the stats don't include the City of Owen Sound, the town of Hanover, the municipality of West Grey, or the town of Saugeen Shores, because they all have their own police forces. And it doesn't include municipalities like Huron-Kinloss and South Bruce, which are covered by the South Bruce detachment. So if our figures are 14% of that, I think probably actually that is probably below our share. But I haven't done the math on the population that particular detachment covers.
Thanks for that clarification. That's good. Yes.
That's really important to say, because this is genuinely a safe community, and as the sergeant did say today, we do have lower numbers than in many places locally.
Councillor Bell.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Well, Big Brother's going to watch. Yeah. So we in our society, we go to a gas station, you know, we're on video. We go to a bank, we're on video. Should you decide to go to the liquor store, you're probably on video. Good people have nothing to fear. Perpetrators have everything to fear. And yeah, we do live in a safe municipality, and bad things happen to good people. And I can see you bringing this forward from a tourism aspect of have a look here and how neat that is, and see a parade and all of that stuff. But really, it's I thank the acting CAO for clarifying too just where the camera will be pointed and the invasion of privacy. So when this came up, all I could think about was watching movies called The Bourne Supremacy, where he couldn't go anywhere in London with camera 9 to camera 64, and they had him going up the stairs of a library. Well, that's pretty wild stuff, and it's movie stuff. But
It's not movie stuff. It's very true in London in particular.
So on this one, Mr. Uhrig, I think I can support you, even though there's another eye being placed on us. And like I said, good people don't have anything to fear. And I think that if we do this, my only thing will be, this will be another item for consideration for costs in 2024. And I'm correct on that.
Perhaps.
Perhaps.
Until we look into or until we finish looking into new systems and what they can and can't do, and what the cloud implications are, and whether we need internet infrastructure in somewhere where we want to have a webcam, say on the front of Meaford Hall, for instance. I just don't know. It would depend on whether we need additional internet connections, or the cameras themselves aren't that expensive these days. They're a lot less than they used to be.
On the next item, this is my motion, and it is extremely wordy. And so should I exit my seat here to read this? And, let the
if
deputy mayor
you wish
begin?
to, absolutely, and then the deputy mayor would assume the chair for this purpose. The other alternative, which we've used in the past, is that you just see if somebody else will move it and second it to get it on the floor, and then
Let's do
that's
that.
fine.
Let's
That's
do
probably
that.
easiest.
Is there a mover then for mine? Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and a seconder, Councillor Bartley. So the motion is, whereas Shift Solar Inc. is proposing to construct and operate a long-term reliability project under the long-term request for proposals LT1 RFP issued by the Independent Electric System Operator ISO. And whereas pursuant to LT1 RFP proposals that receive the formal support of the local jurisdictional authorities of all the projected communities in which the long-term reliability project is located, in the form of a support resolution, be awarded rated criteria points for the purpose of ranking the proposal in relation to other proposals for a contract under the LT1 RFP. Therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Meaford supports the development, construction, and operation of the long-term reliability project on municipal lands 143006 Superior Street, Owen Sound. And that this resolution's sole purpose is to enable the proponent to receive rated criteria points under LT1 RFP or to satisfy its obligations under any awarded LT1 contract, and may not be used for the purpose of any other form of approval in relation to the proposal or long-term reliability project, or for any other purpose. Rated criteria points will be used to rank the proponent's proposal in relation to other proposals received by the ISO under the LT1 RFP. That's it. Do we have some discussion on this at this point?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, thank you. This does appear to be a complicated motion, but I think we have had Bogdan Danu present here at council, and I think we've all talked with him and understand what his intentions are. And we do have, and Mr. Smith will help me with the gentleman's name, we did have presentation from the gentleman who owns the property where this would be located, and he is in favor of going forward with this project. And we also recognize the importance of this letter to the proponent Bogdan Danu as he goes forward and seeks approval from ISO. So it'll be up to ISO to make this decision. So I don't have issue with the municipality at this point adding a support letter to his application. We recognize that he is attempting to create a 100 megawatt capacity project. And I think we all know the need in the community for additional power. We've heard about that loud and clear. So I will be voting to go forward with support of this. Thank you.
You and I don't differ on a whole lot of things over a long period of time, so today's going to be number 2. I can't support this in its the way it is. I have here something that I've kept for quite a while, and for those of you who wish to look it up, I'm going to clearly tell you where the information was. It was in a publication called The Rural Voice, and it was published on June of this year. And just to show my fellow councillors, I'm not cherry picking from this article. The article says that quite generally, these types of proposals for battery storage facilities, they range anywhere between 10 and 30 acres. It also says in this article that from a regulatory standpoint, battery units are no different from a transmission line. And yes, they do need a municipal approval. Battery facilities are best fitted in rural areas and not in cities, but near transmission lines. So those of us who have went out to the Warlow farm, there's been many, many times when proposals come before this council and we hear the voice of the neighbors around an area with all kinds of reasons why it doesn't fit. They don't want it, the noise, the sound, the light, on and on and on. So take a drive out there, Superior Street and Highway 6 and 10, and take a look at the Warlow farm. Take a look down Highway 6 and 10. You got Joe's garage on the left-hand side there, heading south. Across the way, you've got the former abattoir for the horses that were put down and turned to glue. Not too many people are going to be around this. You're probably not going to hear much opposition to this. So in that aspect, choosing this spot is not a bad spot, but I'm going to speak against it. And I'm going to speak against it because these units, according to this article, the units containing the batteries themselves are stored in units, this article said, in units which are like a sea can, 8 by 8, 40 feet long, and inside are many banks of batteries. These batteries get very hot. They must be cooled 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's a risk of fire. This article has a picture of a unit on fire. In the article, that photograph happened to have been taken in Australia. So there's a risk of fire. The article said that many of the local fire departments, when a battery bank like this goes on fire, only do one thing. They tell all of the people in the surrounding area to shut their windows and doors. There's a lot of toxins. The other aspect from being a rural person, as we have heard many, many times, how many acres a day we are losing to anything that encroaches upon farmland. Again, take a drive out and have a look at the Warlow farm. You can see that it's under crop. Okay, so it's very productive land that's out there. The other aspect, and this even goes to our cars and trucks that are being made to be battery driven. The article says here that they have a last of about 7 to 10 years. And at this point, currently, there's no recycling program for these batteries, and they potentially could end up in a landfill at the end of their life. That statement could be made to our cars and trucks and other vehicles that are being made. There is no true end game here. So for these things about the risk of fire, the losing of farmland, and there's no end game for the battery bank, I can't support this in saying that we are going to be a willing host to this proposal this afternoon. Thanks.
Greenfield?
Thanks, Worship, and thanks for bringing this forward. Nobody needs to tell me about the need for more hydro in our municipality. Mr. Ford's done a good job of that. Population growth of 6, 7, 800,000 a year in our province. Most of them mainly come from the GDA. Need hydro, there's no doubt about it. With the increase in EVs and hybrids, hey, I get it. We're going to need more hydro. This is coming from a chap who, for the last 51 years, has lived in a home that has had electric heat and nothing else. Hydro is pretty important in our household. We lose in 320 acres of productive farmland a day, 2,240 a week, 116,480 in the course of a year. Our municipality is 227 square miles in size, 1,000 acres. At the end of the year, put out a new map of Ontario, and you just simply eliminated 70% of our municipality, just struck it off the map. The 7 at the 3 corners represents 7 generations. I understand. Also represent that decisions made today the future. I'm just going to go ahead 20 years. Now, I won't be around 20 years, but hopefully my children were, grandchildren will be, and hopefully some grandchildren will be. I'm just going to give you 2 scenarios. Rather sit down in candlelight to a table full of food for the family, or would you rather sit down in a well-illuminated home with no food on that table.
Thank you. The only two things that give me kind of hope on this project, one is they already have a decommissioning plan in place, which many storage things do not, and one of it is, and it is, and why the owner is in favor is because it is to be reverted back to farmland once it's run its course. So in terms of long-term planning of ag, that kind of stands in its favor. Another thing is they've actually been talking to the Bruce Trail and the NEC, and if they can kind of get them on board, then that to me is a huge hurdle, because those are two agencies that are very, very concerned with environmental. Finally, the only thing I will say is battery technology is changing literally by the minute. Over the course of the life of this, it may not be recyclable now. There's every chance that they will be recyclable in the next 10, 20 years, because that technology is changing drastically. So I agree with Mr. Greenfield that power, we talked about homelessness, or I mean, affordable housing. This is right up there. Power for Ontario is going to be absolutely urgent need. So I can support this, because we do have to support energy initiatives that are going to feed back into the grid.
Thank you. I also want to echo Councillor Urig's sentiments with regards to the decommissioning process. I had a really good in-depth conversation with Bogdan from Shift Solar, and he explained to me how highly regulated and how stringent the decommission procedure is for these batteries. There will always be a use for these materials even after they have exceeded their life cycle. But this type of battery storage project is very similar to the Oneida project, and this is a game-changing energy storage project. Just to give you some examples, greenhouse gas pollution from Ontario's existing gas-fired power plants will increase by more than 300% by 2030 and by 700% by 2043. And this is because the province is using gas to replace aging nuclear plants and to meet the growing demand for electricity as population growth, et cetera. Ontario needs these types of energy storage projects. And as Councillor Urig was saying, is that technology is literally advancing by the second. So I'm very encouraged by this. And the nice thing about this is the land can be used down the road for agricultural uses if and when this facility is decommissioned. So I think this is awesome. I support it. And yeah, I think it's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Are you ready for the vote? All in favor?
Your worship, I apologize for interrupting. And with your permission, may I go back to notice of motion?
I believe you can.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I do have two today. The first being, I'd like consideration from my fellow councillors to go forward with a subscription to Municipal World. That is a magazine that we used to have arrive in our mailboxes, and I think it's very valuable. And I'd like us. There is a subscription budget line, so I'd like to consider that. And my second notice of motion, as you will recall, a short few weeks ago, we did, through notice of motion, approve continued support in the amount of $50,000 for our Meaford Hospital. And our Northeast Grey Health Centers had been receiving $25,000 annually, and that support ran out in 2023. So I'd like us to consider continued support in the same amount going forward. So those are my two notices. Thank you.
All right. Where are we ready? So sorry. Items for consideration. Sorry. Oh, there we are. Yes, council minutes, meetings. We've got minutes from July 24, August 28, and September 11. So The recommendation is be it resolved that Council of the Municipality of Meaford hereby adopt the minutes of the council meetings held on September 11th and the closed meetings held on July 24 and August 28. All in favor? That is carried. Is there anything from the communications agenda? Of a confirming bylaw, be it resolved that bylaw 2023-59, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Municipality of Meaford at its regular and special meetings held in the month of September 2023, be taken as read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. All in favor? And that is carried, and we're ready to adjourn. Thank you.